safe space. We ain't never give a reason you should hide. Compile all your questions, we're taking the quest. Join Tarcia on this journey to discover the rest. Go.
Welcome to the Adoption Journey podcast. I am your host, Tarcia Smith, and welcome to yet another story, another week. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we get started, you already know, like, subscribe, follow, do all the things, and then go tell all your friends to go do all those things too. So today in the building, we have yet another attendee from the Black Adoptees weekend that we had in the ATL, Miss Tonya Hockaday. Hi, Tonya.
Yes. Hello, how you doing?
I'm good. Now, I do want you at the very top of this, shout out your documentary, and then we're going to get into the conversation. Let the people know the name of your documentary.
Okay, I have a documentary on YouTube called Identity. You can pull it up by my name, Tonya Hockaday, Hockaday. I'm the only Tonya Hockaday out there on YouTube right now, I guess. And it'll come right up. And it's a documentary about my adoption.
Okay. So we're going to get into the story of her adoption, and then you can go watch the documentary. I have not watched the documentary on purpose because I wanted to talk to her first. And so I had the pleasure of meeting her in person and her wonderful husband. And I got a chance to love on them and everything. And I didn't even know the story. So here we go. How old were you when you found out that you were adopted?
In my 30s. I believe I was like 31, 32.
That's a big age.
Yes.
To find out something like that.
Mm-hmm.
How did you find out?
I actually found out when I was at work. I was talking to my old babysitter. Okay. And we were just having a conversation, just catching up. And I don't remember what the conversation was having, but she came on and she said, well, I'm so glad you're okay with your adoption. And I'm like, wait, well, what you talking about?
I already got to stop you. You said the old babysitter?
My babysitter babysitted me. She was a babysitter, babysitted me when I was adopted.
Okay,
she lived two streets behind from my parents.
Okay, continue.
And she was like, I'm so glad you're okay with your adoption. And I was like, well, what you talking about? And she was like, and it was kind of quiet. And she was like, oh, God, I thought you knew. And I was like, no. She's like, your mom told me that she told you. So I was in shock.
Sure.
And I don't want to give out too much because you got to watch it.
You got to watch the documentary. Right, right.
I watched the documentary, but it's a twist to that story.
Okay.
So I'm not going to tell you the twist.
And I don't want you to tell me the twist.
I'm not going to tell you the twist, but it's a twist to the story.
So finding out that you were adopted in your 30s, in this moment, I know you are in shock.
I was in shock.
Did you believe her?
I didn't have any feelings. I was like, what? I guess the young lady that was with me said I acted the way I reacted. I acted like I knew. And that's the twist to the story. But I called my coworker, which is my friend, and I was like, you're not going to believe this.
Right.
I was talking to my old babysitter, and I was like, she said something about me being adopted, and she was like, girl, you are lying. And I was like, no, that's what she said. So we was trying to figure out, and I was working at the hospital at the time. We was trying to figure out. So we looked at social services, and I was like, she was like, well, let's just call social services, see what's going on. So we called, and I gave the lady my name. I was like, no, she ain't gonna find nothing, not thinking nothing of it. And she came back and said, yeah, my name was in the database.
So in your 30s, and then you get this confirmation, do you feel like you have been lied to all your life?
To be honest, I did not feel, I really can't tell you how I felt. I just was like shocked. And then and I remember leaving work that day, and I called my husband, and I was like, you're not going to believe this. And then I called one of my girlfriends, and I was like, you're not going to believe this. You're just not going to believe this.
And what do they say, especially your husband?
They were like, get out of here. And my husband was like, no, because you look like you look like your family. No. He said that he was like, I never thought anything because you look like your family. Mm. And I was like, I said some choice words. And around that time, it was hard because my adopted mom was going through a breakdown. So my adopted mom, she has some mental issues. So she was kind of going through a breakdown at the same time I found out. So I had to make a decision if I was going to tell my family I knew or if I wasn't. So I didn't tell my family I knew at that time.
Okay, I get not talking to your mom because of what's going on, but you didn't feel the need to tell anybody in the family?
No, I didn't say anything, but my aunt, which has passed now, my aunt is one of the ones who raised me. And at that point in time, I just was going through it. Like I was going through the adoption. I was going through my mom having issues. I lost my job at that point. I got laid off. So I was kind of going through the motion, and I was just going through the motion of just finding out who I thought I was. Like my identity is not who I thought I was. I was like, I went to work that day as Tonya Militia Moore Hockaday. And I left there not knowing who I was. So I was in the midst of all of that, saying like, okay, should I tell him? Should I tell him? But I couldn't.
Girl, you better than me. I'd have been like, hey, listen.
But I really didn't. The only person I would have asked was my aunt. And she was going through the same thing because that's her sister. So we all was going through some emotion with my mom at that time. And like I said, my mom was going through some issues. So I didn't want to put that burden on my aunt. So I just kind of took it to myself. I kept it to myself, but I was going through it at the same time. So I started losing weight. My hair started coming out. Wow. People thought I was sick. You'll figure out what they thought I was in my documentary. So I was just kind of going through it, but stuff started clicking to me. Yeah. I don't know how I remembered. So I started asking my aunt questions. Like, do you remember we went to this funeral? And I don't even know how I remember this. We went to this funeral and I had 2 pigtails and I think I had like a light blue. I said, whose funeral was that? She knew at that point that I knew. Because that was my foster parents. That was one of my foster parents' funeral that they took me to. So my mom and my aunt and my cousin, they took me to the funeral. Now the kicker is my cousin and his daughter, we all grew up together.
Right.
And I just told her a couple of years ago about the adoption. She one of the ones that did not know.
Okay, I'm going to stop you. Hold on, because you just blew my mind. They took you to your foster parents' funeral.
One of my foster parents. I came
when you were a little girl, but you had a very distinct memory. What you were wearing, how your hair was. You remember.
I don't know. I start thinking about things. Now before then, I never thought about it.
Right, you just had gone to somebody's funeral.
I went on. But I said, do you remember? And then one time, because my aunt was very protective of me. My whole family was overprotective of me. And when my mom was having one of her episodes, my mom told the police that time, oh, that's not my daughter. That's my adopted daughter. And she said it as I was walking through the door and my aunt cut her off. Because my aunt, that's not the way she wanted me to find out.
And was this when you were an adult or this happened
This was adult. All this happened around the same time. I told you my mom was going through some emotion. So she was going through some mental breakdown. So we was going through that. So I just started giving my aunt hints. And that was the hint I gave her. Not knowing, but I would just ask the question. And my therapist said, my mind started going back then. Even though I had blocked it out. Because I don't remember being adopted. But stuff started happening. And when I told her, I said, you remember that time? And I said, well, who was those people?
Well, can I ask you, and I don't know if you would mind telling, how old were you when you were adopted? And
me reading my birth records, I was between the age of 4 and 5.
So old enough to possibly remember.
Maybe. I think my mom and them started coming to see me when I was like 2 or 3. But it takes a while for adoption. But I think they kind of got me between 4 and 5, maybe but 3, but I think 4 and 5. That's just me putting the pieces together because I never really was told the story. But I just remember.
That's so interesting that they never even brought it up because you were really at an age, like I remember 4 and 5 very well. So you were at an age to remember. It's not like you were 1, 2, baby.
I don't remember. So when I found out, I don't know what made me really think about that story. All I remember is people was coming up to me, kissing and hugging me, and stuff like that. And
that's how
at the funeral.
Okay.
And I even rode in the limo with them to the funeral.
But they were doing all kinds of stuff to not have told you.
And not knowing that. But it's like I said, I can't tell you. It's a kicker. It's a twist to the story.
It's a twist to the story. Y'all.
It's a twist to the story.
Look, I'm getting ready to end this interview and go watch the documentary.
So, as Kathy said, it's a lot. It's a lot. So after that point, I still had to keep that. I don't want to say that lie. I had to keep that story to me. So, I was telling people, I was telling my best friend, I was telling, and all of them tried to love me.
Yeah.
And make me feel better, but that was not enough because I was going through like I said, going through it.
Yeah.
So I had to find out and then had to put the pieces to the story together. So that's when the day I made that call to social services, that's the day that they said, well, you can do non-disclosure and disclosure. I was like, well, do both. Not knowing what it was. But I just remember just going through the motions. Like, I was like, who am I? I'm like, I was just toe up for the floor up. And granted, I had kids. I had 2 kids.
Hold on, let me ask you a question about that identity question.
Mm-hmm.
Because I asked you earlier, were you angry? But it seems like you started just having like an identity crisis.
I had an identity crisis. I was angry. I was pissed. I was sad. I was mad. I was everything a person could be. And I try not to be angry with my family because especially.
Why?
Because like my aunt told me, it wasn't her place. Her and my uncle or my cousin said it wasn't their place to tell. They was told not to tell me. Mm-hmm. So they had to go by the family values. You had to, you got to go by your family.
Understood.
Even my grandma who raised me, she went to her grave with this.
A lot of people do though.
Yeah. So after a while.
Do you know why they didn't want to tell you, or is that in the documentary?
Well, that's something that, like they explained to me, that was something up to my mother. That wasn't
not them. I mean, why your mother, like why your parents didn't want to tell you.
My mom, it's a twister to that.
Okay.
It's a twister.
All right.
But my mom, when I confronted her, she told me she never wanted me to know because I was her child. And she told me that a couple of years ago. I just told her I knew a couple of years ago. I told her about maybe 5 years ago that I knew.
Well, you just told her. She never wanted you to know.
I never wanted you to know because you was my child.
That's how you feel about that answer.
What could I have said? I couldn't say nothing. I was like, well, I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad.
Yeah.
I was mad at the time, but at the point when I asked her, I was like, I'm not mad. Therapy, my church and them had to kind of work with me because,
how so?
Because, the question was, how can you be mad with her? She just didn't want you to know. And there was some things that I had to really think about it. I could have been angry, but what was I going to do? That won't go change my story, right?
It was not.
So
it was not.
Me being angry won't really going to do much.
So do you begin to wonder about where you come from?
Yeah. Then I start thinking, well, who do I look like?
Yeah.
Where do I get my ways from?
I had that question.
What is my identity? So I'll start thinking about all of that. This particular day, I don't never miss work. I'm the type of person to go to work sick, whatever. But this particular day, I could not get my head off the pillow. Like literally could not get my head off the pillow. And that's the day I got the call saying they had my birth record.
The body knows something about these things. We respond, and I had a similar type of experience the day before I got word that I lost my birth father. It was just, I can't even describe it. It was weird, but probably like what you said, like you just couldn't do anything. Nothing felt right. Everything just probably felt like a turmoil inside of you.
Could not get my head off that pillow. And the lady called me from social services, and I work for social services now.
Okay.
And the lady called me and said, I have your birth records. Let's meet at the library.
So can you talk about how you feel leading up to going to look at these birth records?
I was sick. I couldn't understand why I couldn't get I had the worst headache. I remember I was like, I don't understand why I have this headache like this. And when she gave me the call, I was so nervous, because I was like, I am really about to find out my life.
Right.
I was like, oh my God. I said, oh my God. And so I met her and met the lady there, and we was there for a minute, and I could not believe what was in my records. I was like,
that's in the documentary.
yeah. I mean, there's no secret about that part. It was telling me that I have 4 sisters. This one, the kickers. My baby sister, the 5th girl, because 5 girls. The 5th sister started looking, I think I'm understanding, started looking a year before I did, but social services never contacted me. So I started putting the pieces together with that, like, oh, okay. But nobody ever tried to contact me. In looking at my record, my birth mom had a rough life. She had a really rough life. And she just couldn't take care of us. So I had to get over that. Like, dang, this my life. So I tried to do the search. I tried. And when I did the search, it came back. Now, if I remember right, the sister before me, I guess, was going to contact us to allow me to contact her or something like that. But from what I gathered from the lady who did the search for me, from what I gathered, either I have birth mom and her father, which I don't know was my father, because the guy, my birth mom was married, and her husband said that I wasn't his child, so he signed his rights over. But I believe it was my birth mom and her father, I could be wrong, said that, I guess, told her, don't let us contact her. Don't let me contact her. So she wouldn't do it. This is the story that I got. The lady who did the research. So at that time, now I was mad about that.
Yeah.
I was like, well, how is she grown?
Yeah.
I was like, well, how could she don't want to meet her own child that she had, and blah, 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 blah. Oh, I was mad. And that's when my best friend was like, well, how you know how she feel? So how you mad about that? And I was like, good point. And I just believe that I said to myself that, I just feel like I had to grieve. This is a grieving process. And I'm grieving somebody I don't know.
Yeah.
Because, even at the reunion, everybody said they kind of met their birth family. Maybe I might be wrong.
Yeah, but a lot of us have.
And so I could not have that conversation with y'all because I never met my birth family. So I'm grieving people that I don't even know. And you keep grieving people and grieving. I even did Ancestors.com.
And just do me a favor if you can, because there's some people, especially people that are not adopted. Can you, in your best ability, can you verbalize what that means to grieve people that you don't even know? Because there are people like, that doesn't make any sense.
It does make sense. Because I'm grieving, I'm hurt for people. That's just like death. You grieving somebody because the loss of somebody. I'm grieving somebody because I lost somebody that I never knew, but I'm still grieving it. This lady had me. We are DNA connected. And she didn't want to see me. You know, I got sisters out there. My oldest sister, 12 years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
I got sisters out there. I got nieces. I got nephews
Yeah.
out there that I'm grieving because I probably won't ever meet them.
Mm.
You know? And then I had to realize that it's okay to grieve. I had to realize that everything happens for a reason and that God gave me this story. Because it only came from God.
Mm.
So I had to accept what he gave me.
Yeah.
And was I angry? Yes. Was I grieving? Yes. Because of the simple fact is I saw everybody else with their family. Not saying that I was raised with one of the best families. Yes, we had our ups and downs, but I can't ask for nothing best because this is what God put in my story. But at the same time, I still have a right to grieve.
Yeah.
You know, on ancestors.com, you hear all the stories. I met my family, and I never did that. I reached out and nobody contacted me back. So that's a grieving process. Then I had to go through the process and say, well, I'm not good enough. But when I had people, when I had, you know, because not a lot of people know. You're not going to know I'm adopted unless I tell you. And, and when people was like, you never know her story. Why? But she did the best thing. You figure out and you find out
the documentary.
You found out the documentary.
I can't wait.
She did the best thing for me.
Okay. So what I'm gonna do, because you have given so much to make the people want to go watch the documentary, which was the purpose of this interview for sure. Y'all go watch the documentary because now I can't wait to see it. So what I want to do, I want to turn the corner and I want to ask you about the Black Adoptee Meetup. I want to know, what did that weekend mean to you?
My husband and I was talking about that. And he was excited too. I was like, he ain't even adopted, he was excited. I felt good being around people like me. Feel great because, and I don't care if you're black or white, Chinese, I don't really care about that. But it was good to see people like me because when I went to the support group, my first support group, I was the only black. And don't get me wrong, I learned a lot because see, they tell their story. You know, they be in there telling
all the things.
They be in there telling the whole story. They be like, you know, I was adopted, or I gave my child up for adoption. You know, they didn't want to talk to me, or they want to talk to me. They tell it all.
They're going to tell it all, and the neighbor's business, and the dog's business, too. They're going to tell it all.
They're going to tell it all. And I love that. Because none of them was ashamed of their story. I'm the only one up in there.
Wait. And did you tell your story?
Yeah, I told it. And they were happy for me. They was like, good Tonya, telling your story. They meet every Tuesday. And they were telling it. Yes, they were telling it all. And then I was like, well, dang. So me to be surrounded by my own made me feel good. That's why I was so excited. And I'm going to tell you, I came across that invite by accident. I ain't gonna say by accident. It was by God. Because I just was scrolling and I saw it. And I was like, oh. And then when you said it was full, I was like, well, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna email her and see what she said.
You sure did.
And when you came up the next day and said you open it up, I won't number God because that was my birthday weekend. I was trying to go to Jamaica somewhere. And when I told my husband, I ran down and said, I was like, no, we're going to Atlanta. We're going to Atlanta. That's my birthday weekend. That's what I want to do. So I was glad that you had the meetup group. And I was like, well, my husband was like, yeah, y'all on to something. Y'all on to something. You know, he all about business and stuff. He like, y'all on to something. And he was like, you know, maybe you could do it in Richmond.
Yeah, we gonna bounce around. You know, we going to Chicago next year. We gonna bounce around. Again, your birthday weekend. We're gonna be planning your birthday every year if we do it on that weekend.
I'm gonna be right there with my birthday weekend. But, you know, it just being around y'all made me want to put my story out there more. Want to, you know, put my brand out there more. You know, my goal is to do speaking engagements.
Want to speak it into existence. Yes.
And my husband and I was talking about something that I want to put out too. And the one thing is that one thing that my husband made me think about is that you okay. All of y'all are okay. All of y'all story was different. But you know, everything's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna work out the way it's supposed to work out. You know, me putting my documentary out there because the guy who did the documentary with me is one of my friend's husband. And I am gonna tell you that we did not practice. We doing it off the cuff.
That makes the best stuff because it's real.
We did it off the cuff. We got in there documentary. We got in there and we did it. We just did it off the cuff. And one of my friends told me this morning, she said, you can tell that you're getting more comfortable
telling your story,
telling my story. And I'm understanding that that's who I am.
Yeah.
That's who God created me to be. Now, was I angry at one time? Like, God, why you do me like this? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, why not? Why not me? Why not you? So y'all just kind of open my eyes that it's okay it's okay to put my story out there. It's okay to share it, and it's okay. Cause I'm okay. I can't ask for a better life than what I have. Yeah. I have friends that love me. I have a husband that love me. I have my children that love me. My grandson loves his Mimi.
Aw. And now you have a bunch of Black adoptees that love you too.
And my adopted family never treated me like I was not part of it.
Right. That's my testimony too. That's my family.
So y'all open my eyes that it's a lot that we need to do with this arena, community, and each of us have a way that we can bring the community together. And that's what I got out of the weekend. And it was one of the best birthdays I had in a long time.
Well, I'm so happy to hear that.
Yes.
It was an amazing weekend. It really was.
Yeah, because my husband, because I didn't know I honestly didn't know what, I was like, well, what do we, I just signed up for it. I said, I don't know what we're doing. I don't know. Just come on. We're going to flow with it. We're going to go with the flow.
Even as one of the co-hosts, we didn't know we was doing either.
And I just love the fact that everybody that was supposed to be there was there.
For sure. I have said that numerous times. Whoever was supposed to be there was there. Period.
Yes. And I think that is, whatever I can do to help, I would be glad to. Like I said, I am starting to help a little bit more. One of my friends, she's opening up a transitional home for foster kids that's transitioning out the system.
Okay.
And I'm helping her.
That's amazing.
I got her a lot of insight. I was like, even though they wasn't adopted, they still go through the same feelings that we go through.
Yeah. And some of us even more trauma because they have the memory of being at home. They have whatever happened in the home. They have the memory of being taken from the home. And then they have the memory of bouncing around from home to home. It's a different kind of trauma.
And I can say that's why I said my story equals my identity, because your story equals your identity. The rest of the stories equal their identity. And it just make you know that I was just saying today that we all adoptees kind of act alike.
We do.
We kind of act alike.
We have our little quirks. We have our quirks.
Yes, we kind of act alike, but the trauma, some of the trauma is the same, some of the trauma is different, but we still go through trauma.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I was able to get help the way I got my help, because I could have been one of the ones that, could have taken my life. And I had to remember I had kids, I have a boy and a girl, and I had a husband, and I had my friends, so I couldn't ask for nothing else better than that.
Yeah.
And I just realized that God just gave me the story, and, it's something that I'm happy for. I'm not going to lie. Some days I have my good days. Some days I have my bad days. That's what we go through. We go through the ups and downs. Some days, around my birthday time, I always think about, do she think about my birthday? Is she living?
I've had those thoughts before.
if my siblings thinking about me, you know, but then what can I do?
Just keep
I can't
telling
do
your
nothing.
story
Can't do nothing. And if I can help one person
from your story, then you've
for
done.
my story,
Yeah.
because if I showed you a picture of then to now, I don't even look the same. So,
well, one more time, shout out your documentary.
the document is called Identity by Tonya, Tonya Hockaday, Hockaday. Just watch it. It would touch you. It would touch you. I'm
And
getting ready to
I'm gonna
rebrand
drop I'm gonna drop the link to her documentary in the description. When you're done watching this, go watch her documentary. You said you're gonna rebrand. Say that one more time.
I'm going to rebrand my t-shirts and start putting them out there. And
Yeah,
that's
I
one
can't
thing.
wait. I can't wait to
That's
get it.
one thing you made me do. One thing I did get from them is because I'm just a laid back person. I always like to be in the background of
I
stuff.
noticed.
I'm just not, not like I just love being in the background. And when I saw you doing what you was doing, I was like, you know what? Let me tell them. Because at first I wasn't even going to say nothing. And my husband, at first I was like, because I'm a background person, and then my husband was like, girl, you better go and tell that stuff. You better go.
Absolutely. And we getting ready to scream it from the mountaintops. So get
I
ready to blow up, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. And I wanted you, like I said, I'm going to be honest, I didn't know why I had to go through what I had to go through. But I appreciate you doing the meetup group. I appreciate you gathering us together because it was good to be around people like you.
Sure.
And every story was different. And some of the stories I cracked up laughing about. But everybody was, the one thing I do love is everybody had a smile on their face.
We did. We had a good time.
And
we had a good time.
That's, and the saying I used to say, I'm smiling through all of this.
We had a good time together. And I
So
can't wait to do it
I appreciate
again.
that.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate it. I appreciate you letting me in because I was going to fight. I was like, oh, I'm getting in that. I'm going that.
And you made it. And you were where you were supposed to be.
For sure. So I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on. And like I said, y'all go, don't walk, run, go click the documentary, go click the link, go watch it. Let's blow up her documentary, y'all.
Well, you're going to have questions afterwards.
Oh, I'm sure. There might even be a part 2. We might have to bring her back after I watch.
What did Kathy said? Ooh, that's a lot.
She called me. I said, don't tell me. Don't tell me nothing. Don't tell me nothing. So on that note, bye, family.
Bye. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Journey on. You need a pie with the good. Oh yeah, what is the one?